Real news. Honest and fun political talk weekly on the line 90.7 FM. The story people keep talking about all the time is the New York Times op-ed, which is this opinion piece written in the New York Times on Wednesday, I believe it was printed, or Thursday. And it was an anonymous op-ed written by somebody, a senior administration official in the Trump administration. And basically they said they were resisting Trump. They were fine for a lot of the policy. They liked a lot of the policy he was doing, but they didn't like Trump's immoral actions. They called it, quote, amoral, his amorality. And they basically confirmed there was a deep state. But they call themselves the steady state. I don't know what else you can call it. It's a deep state. They're literally they talk about invoking the 25th Amendment because they were talking about it as a staff. So they're basically, saying, hey, we want to get rid of a duly elected president. And there's been many possibilities as to who this is. It could be some high-level staffer, but if I were to bet money, I would bet on John Huntsman. I've looked into him. I've looked into how the document was written. There's no way it's Mike Pence or John Kelly. It's an obvious diversion, whoever used terms that those people use to divert them and lead them off their trail. Completely obvious. And they said this is, I looked into articles that talked about this too. It's pretty consistent of what Huntsman has said in the past. He basically likes Trump's policies but doesn't like the man. And he's been kind of back and forth on him. I used to like John Huntsman, so I'm really depressed that he would be this way, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so right now we don't really know who it is yet, and that's why I'm not really going to go and try to get point fingers. It could be Huntsman. I haven't really looked too much into the man. But the thing is, what do they call it now? The steady state? The deep state, steady state sounds like a hard drive. They got them solid states. How long will it take before they come up with these new terms? It's the same old thing, though. It's just the old government having these holdovers from the previous administration, and people, these guys are coming in, these they're almost like spies. You get these enemies within a fifth column within your own government.
Yeah,
and it's really sad this is happening. And I saw what Trump was tweeting about. He was like, if it wasn't for me, the New York Times would be dead. It's kind of true, because that's the only thing they really talk about. The only reason people care about is because they talk about Trump negatively. It's do they have anything else to talk about? It's the entire world is, or at least America, just revolves around Trump these days. You haven't really seen that since George Washington, where everything was about Trump. And they're just revolving around it. They call it it'll be the Trumpian times again. I remember in social studies, the only time we had it was named after a person. It was Washington's times, and then everyone else was just it was the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this is really bad. He needs to go and weed out this guy, and he has the capabilities to do that. You've seen what they had. You've seen the movie Snowden. You know what capabilities the government has. They can weed out this guy, especially within the White House. It shouldn't be too hard. They need to go and get him out. I don't know if they can take him to court so much and try him with treason, but they need to get him out of there. If he wants to go and start complaining to the New York Times to go and get his a couple shekels were given them, a couple pieces of silver to go and backstab Trump.
Yeah.
So be it. But yeah, no, this isn't very good. He's just looking sad. He's refusing to even go and put his name out there. If you're gonna go and talk crap on your boss, at least have the guts to go and say, especially when you're undermining everything he's doing. He's just gonna cause I think they're actually doing this to go and sow divisiveness within the administration, to go make everyone look at each other. Very well could be someone who's not Huntsman. It could be Huntsman, but it could be someone else too, trying to go make it look like him or Pence.
Well,
it could just be a completely anonymous guy too.
Yeah, well, I want to add an interesting point, which is that in Huntsman's denial, he really doesn't deny that he wrote this. It's worded really funny, and he did it more recently. He didn't do in the first wave of all these denials, Pence and all these people came out real quick and denied it, and Kelly denied it quickly. And they flat out deny it, but Huntsman doesn't directly deny it.
Oh, if that's the case, they need to do an investigation.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now, because it's pretty wishy-washy. It's, I really think it's him, but it could be anyone. I think the media's hyping this up way too much. They're like, oh my God, this is this is like, oh, this is gonna bring down Trump. We got Trump now. They act like it's the worst thing in the world. I'm like, it's just an op-ed. Like, it's bad, for Trump's image and all that. It's gonna look bad, but this isn't the end of the world.
They have this all the time. What was it, like Omarosa last week, just like complaining about Trump? Then they had that, what was it, the Fire and the Fury book that came out. They just like constantly try to go and attack Trump because they have nothing better to do because he's winning. People are happy with him for the most part. You get some people in the corners out there who might not appreciate him. You got the liberals who are upset. They're always going to find something to be upset about until a Democrat comes in office. It could really matter less like who's actually in power as long as there's a D or an R in their name. A lot of these people, they just want to see that. They'll be sore losers for the next 4 to 8 years, hopefully 8.
Yeah, it says in his non-denial denial, he said, Ambassador Huntsman, come to find when you're serving as a U.S. envoy in Moscow, you're an easy target on all sides. Anything sent out by me would have carried my name. An early political lesson I learned: never send an anonymous op-ed. That's a lawyer speak right there. Like, he doesn't deny it. And he said in the past in articles in the Salt Lake Tribune that he said Americans should know that there are adults in the room, in the White House. Like, I'm getting some moral condescending like tone here.
Yeah, I think he needs to get out. I think he needs to be fired. We haven't had a good firing in a while.
Yeah. When's Trump going to fire somebody?
I think now's the perfect opportunity to just go and fire this guy. He doesn't want to be there, obviously. So, he can go and take a hike.
Yeah, I agree. But while that was happening, the other bit of drama that was happening that I didn't follow too much was the Kavanaugh hearings, who's the appointed or nomination to replace Justice Kennedy, who's announcing his retirement. And Kavanaugh is Trump's pick. Very moderate Republican. He doesn't even want to overturn Roe v. Wade, as Democrats with their Handmaid's Tale protesters are saying. But Democrats basically tried to stall the hearing the entire time because they claimed they didn't have any these documents on his like past court decisions, I guess. And some on Twitter were attacking Zena Bash, who was sitting there behind Kavanaugh with her arms crossed, and she had her one arm laid down, and it looked like the OK sign. But the internet took it as the white power symbol.
Oh my God.
But
she wasn't putting symbols out there. She's just resting her arm. It's like everything that they're going to call Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist. And you go and find like a Mexican Jewish, like, that's a double whammy right there.
No, her parents were Holocaust survivors.
Well, she wasn't. She was too young for that. But like, she
no,
was
her parents. I said her parents were Holocaust survivors. Like, can you get much worse than that?
They're just trying to pull like stuff out their butts.
Yeah.
They're trying to pull things out of nowhere. And I don't think they're going to go anywhere with that. But they just they want to call Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist, but they've come up with the most like wacky conspiracy theories I've ever seen. Like, they'll go and say, he's crazy to think that, these chemicals turn frogs gay.
They were
actually true.
Yeah.
That was one thing. That's like one of the few things. Well, I'm not going to say that because I haven't really seen all of his things. You can't even see him anymore thanks to YouTube.
Yeah.
But, like that was one thing they say that, he's just, he's full of baloney. But then they say this stuff that she's like a secret white nationalist. Like, really? Do you think like a Mexican Jew, like a person of Jewish descent, would be like a Nazi? That just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think she was doing this like dog whistling stuff. And even like I think dictionary.com got in on it, and they like made a tweet and they put the definition of what was a wolf whistle or dog whistle. It was a dog whistle. It's one of those like leftist words that they invented and no one used until like the past 3 years.
Yeah.
They just keep inventing words. It's like and then they redefine words too, like racism, where it's not just being discriminatory towards someone of a different race. It's not like power plus privilege divided by I don't know. It's just some crazy stuff going on with that. But just the way they try to control the language, it's very like dystopian. But basically, they just want to go and paint everything about him. He's obviously white nationalist, and they said the same thing It's like no matter who's in charge, if they're Republican, they're gonna be called like a racist or white nationalist. This happened to George Bush. This happened to who was it was the Arizona guy
John
who
McCain.
recently passed away.
Yeah, McCain.
John
McCain.
Yeah, McCain. They called him like a racist. They called Romney a racist. Now they call Trump a racist. Yeah, it's just all this like conspiracy theory garbage. Whenever there's a Republican who's either running or in the White House, it's what they do. It's just like the only play they have in the book, and they keep using because it works on a small percentage of the population who don't actually look into things.
Yeah, and Crowder did a great video on this recently where he was saying, like, they always think the right's the conspiracy theorist, but if we look back just at the past few years, it's the left that's peddled the most conspiracies. And he showed clips. He showed the Russia stuff, all the fake news. Just the Russia stuff in general has peddled so many conspiracy theories. And then you got stuff like this on a smaller scale. But let's, take this another step further when we talk about... what was I thinking of? I'm losing my point.
Well, you're talking about collusion, because I know there's another case of collusion that just got broken recently.
Yeah, please segue to that while I gather my thoughts.
The left superhero David Hogg, he was actually shut down during he was with Michael Moore. The guy keeps making these conspiracy theory videos. He's like the left-wing Alex Jones, basically, except for he's a little more hefty. But he was actually they cut off his mic during they were in Canada, because he was telling Canadians to go and donate money to political campaigns in America, which is a felony under United States law. He was advocating for Canadian collusion, but there's no front page news articles about this. They don't want to talk about it, and this is really big news. There's more that's on video. They have evidence of it. There's there's attempted Canadian collusion right there. They've had collusion with various other countries too. You can look at England. They were Sadiq Khan. He campaigned. He helped
Obama.
I think he came to America to campaign with Hillary.
Oh yeah, for Hillary. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Obama tried to stop Brexit. He made a bunch of anti-Brexit stuff. This is, I remembered my point now. I gathered my thoughts. Where this is the problem with the left. They have such an extreme double standard. Look, the right's got their biases and double standards. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at the left, especially recently, there is extreme double standard, extreme bias that I don't see to the scale on the right. And what it usually happens just because they don't hold as much to their principles as the right. The right has principles, the left really doesn't. I mean principles in terms of things they believe in. The left just wants to win. I don't blame them. The right just sticks to their principles, and that's why they lose a lot of times. But the left has come under double standards also with, when somebody's a threat, they will call you racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, all kinds of awful, terrible things. But when you become a victim of Trump, or when Trump says mean things about this person, then you're just wonderful. You're just the only good Republican left. Perfect example is John McCain. Look at recently. The left hated this guy. Hated him. Called him a warmonger. Called him a racist. Islamophobe for some comment he made at a debate. All kinds of things they said about him, like an old white man, sending our kids to war. But as soon as Trump attacks him, Trump makes fun of him, and Trump goes after him, John McCain's a war hero. John McCain's so wonderful. John McCain did nothing wrong. John McCain is an angel. He's the only good Republican left. And mean old Trump is just awful. What happened to you people? You hated him like a year ago. And Crowder showed a great clip of Keith Olbermann where he was angrily ranting and raving as Keith Olbermann does. And then he's on the freaking View and he says to John McCain's daughter's face, he says, he was my favorite person in politics. Are you kidding me? It's so disingenuous. It's so fake. It's so... I literally can't put into any more words how frustrated that makes me, because it's so fake. I just can't stand it.
Oh, I agree with you. It's like the snake in the Garden of Eden, like
Yeah.
slippery. They keep lying. They keep changing. Like so every 5 minutes, they change their opinion on something. Because when like Obama and like Hillary Clinton, when they were like way back in the
Yeah.
day, they were asked about like not even way back in the day, it's like 2008, and they were asked about gay marriage, and they're like, oh, we don't support gay marriage. And then Trump, he was actually, I think he attended like a
He
gay wedding in like the early 2000s.
he's the
And then
only
he's
president
called
to come into office pro gay marriage, pro gay rights and everything. He's the only one. Obama didn't come into office pro gay marriage.
Oh yeah, and then they want to go and say that he's the one who's anti-gay when these people have not done half the stuff that he's like he did
Yep.
earlier before it was politically savvy. He was fine
Yep.
with it, and then they want to go and say he's like anti-gay and he's a racist and he's a Nazi. And then he had like pictures of him. I think it was either Rosa Parks or like granddaughter. And
Yeah,
then I
it
think
is
like
Rosa
Muhammad
Parks.
Ali. You have all these
Yep.
pictures like of Trump with them back in like way back when like there was a lot more of a stigma around associating like back in the day when there was like a big racist like a stigma where you didn't want to hang out with black people if you're white. That was
Yeah.
way back in the day, and Trump was still doing it because he's not a racist.
Yeah.
And then these days you have people like who's that guy in the who just died recently, that Robert Byrd. He was a Democrat, lifelong Democrat, and he was in the Ku Klux Klan.
He was a
And they
grand
want to say
wizard.
Trump was racist. He wasn't in the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
He was helping the black community before they even cared about the black community. Back when the only vote they wanted was like the farmers. Like the poor people, the poor white people. These back before.
And
all
Joe
this stuff
Biden and
happened.
Hillary Clinton attended Robert Byrd's funeral, and Hillary Clinton called him a mentor and friend. You can quote that. That is literally what she said about an ex-KKK Grand Wizard. So I know it's kind of a meme, the Democrats are the real racists, but it's kind of true. It kind of is. When you look at the past, when you look at who had slaves, when you look at who stopped civil rights or tried to stop it, who tried to stop any equal treatment for all races, it was Democrats. And the parties didn't just magically switch overnight. And to this day, I hate to say it, but the Democrats tend to just see certain races as votes, and they use identity politics. They use all kinds of methods to cow these people together and manipulate them into keep voting for Democratic policies, which hurt them, but help the elite.
It's true. It's very true. Like Johnson, he was, I think, when they quote unquote say the change happened, and he was when they had a black guy, he said some very racist things. I got a blankety blank into like I put someone in the government or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote. Even if I did, I couldn't say it on here because he uses some very Papa John-y language.
We're gonna keep that as the blooper or as a censor for that word, the Papa John's language.
Like it's pretty ridiculous, and he said that. And if this he's still hailed as like a big savior by the left, and that guy is probably one of the most like disturbing people. Like when JFK got assassinated, he had like the smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Like he was very happy that he got the ability to become president. Like he's just a sick human being, and I'm glad he's gone. I may not have been a fan of John McCain, but this Robert Johnson, he's for who is it? Lyndon B. Johnson, my bad.
Yeah, LBJ.
Yeah, LBJ, he's probably like one of the most like evil people who's gone into politics, and he's really hurt. He did more damage to the black family than even slavery, you could argue, because when he came into office, like the black family, they survived slavery, but once they got put into this the welfare state, that's the thing that really killed it. It's really
100%.
sad when you think about it, because they've survived so much, and then you can go look at the marriage rates. It just started plummeting as soon as this happened.
Yep. It's such a depressing thing. That's why I fully support people like Candace Owens. They're actually trying to help the black community. They're trying to get them to understand the Republicans have policies that would help them, and people like Trump who want to make America great again for all Americans. I just get annoyed when the left tries to use their identity politics to divide us up and court us certain ways when we really should be fighting for everyone and addressing, of course, problems in every community. But I want to talk about a few more things before we head out for a quick break. Did you see the Joe Rogan interview with Mr. Elon Musk, Puffin Musk?
That was a great interview, but like if you actually, I don't know why people are flipping out. Like the left, they're like, I saw a tweet
they hate
like,
weed now.
What is it, like a 15-year-old smoking weed? Shake my head. Then like the same person tweet like, "Oh, I went to a cannabis distribution place. I think she lived in California, and then like some girl kissed me, and I felt so good walking downstairs. I saw like a tweet about that.
Oh God,
it's just like you want to go and say you're pro marijuana, but then go and attack Elon Musk for puffing a
didn't even inhale
a marijuana device. That's very hypocritical. I don't think drugs are good. He doesn't even like it. He even said in the interview, drugs are bad.
Yeah. I was genuinely surprised he actually did it. Like, I cried a little bit on the inside when he did it. But, like, because I for the record, I do love Elon Musk. But when I saw him do it, I was like, no, Elon, don't do it. Like, why does everybody do that when they go on Joe Rogan?
He doesn't care.
He doesn't. That's why. That's where those type of things, like, that's why I love Trump's, because he hasn't done any of that crap. But when Elon did, like I said, I cried inside at first when he did it. But then when I saw the reaction, I was like, he should have done it twice. I'm not saying he should have. I don't endorse any drug use, but that was like the reaction I heard from some people. Like, he should have done it again. I was like, no, but it was so funny because all he did, he didn't even inhale. He just kind of like he puffs it and he gives like a funny, like memeable expression. What?
He pulled a Bill Clinton. Didn't even inhale it. There was like the meme of him like waving the marijuana cigarette, but that's it.
Yeah, it was funny because people were like losing their crap. I'm like, oh, so you guys hate marijuana now? I thought you guys liked Elon Musk. Like, what happened? Like, it's bizarre. Like, I think Vice had a headline that said like Elon Musk made weed uncool or something. I'm like, what?
No, like seriously, if you guys I'm not a big fan of marijuana, but I think that they should change the way the laws are being enforced right now. I think that they should. I wouldn't mind it being legalized on the federal level, but then regulate it, because I think for some people, there's definitely medical benefits to it. But
but doesn't cure cancer, Joe Rogan. I said, but doesn't cure. I said yes, but doesn't cure cancer, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he's a little bit goofy with that. And then they demonize Joe Rogan too. They're like, he went on to this I don't know if they say it was an alt-right podcast or it has like bad people on it because they like Alex Jones on one. It's like,
it's funny.
Just a place to talk. It's just a place to talk.
Yeah.
They have some good conversations on Joe Rogan's podcast. He doesn't care for the most part who's on there,
and that's what he says.
Just has decent conversations. He's probably doing more to bridge the divide than anyone else on this, in politics or anything these days, because he lets people on left wingers, right wingers, Alex Jones, Elon Musk, anybody.
Yeah, and he always says I'll let anybody on my show. That's the point of it, is that he lets anyone on. He said, I think he was talking to Dave Rubin, because they were saying, oh, you bring Alex Jones on? Don't give him a platform. How dare you? That you can't give him a platform. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to have anybody on. Alex is my friend. I've known him for 20 years or whatever it is. He's, I'm going to bring anybody on. No matter how crazy they are, I just want to hear him out. I'm like, that's a perfectly reasonable position. And giving somebody a platform doesn't mean you endorse their views, doesn't mean you support them or anything. But, like they say, sunlight's the best disinfectant. If you have terrible ideas, let's see them. Let's let the public decide. Why do we have to be such babies about this? And Elon Musk, actually, this is what pissed me off, because this is what the media does. When you see Elon Musk smoking a blunt, that's a headline right there. Elon Musk goes on Joe Rogan and smokes weed. They're going to eat that crap up. But the problem is they talk about so many more fascinating things with AI and simulation. That should have been what was being talked about. Of course it wasn't, because the press is, dumb and makes dumb stories. But I was Elon's a bit socially inept. He really doesn't know how to socialize, because I think he's just a super nerdy genius. But he had some interesting stuff to say once Joe got him going a bit, especially about AI, which is a subject I'm very interested in. But even simulation theory, he got me to kind of believe that theory. I believe it way more than there is a possibility of a God. As regular listeners will know, I am an atheist. But simulation theory just went, whoa, that blew my mind when he started explaining stuff.
Yeah, he talked about like a lot of things, like about the like aircraft that could be like
Electric
vertical
aircraft.
takeoff, and
Yeah.
like the feasibility of like tunnels where they like sort of like maglebs and stuff in tunnels, and why it wouldn't work
Yeah.
on roads so much. But no one cares about that. You get these lying fake news media who goes and only sees the salacious thing. That, you know, it's like you have so much stuff in here. You get this like bountiful like thing of fruit, then you find like one little piece of the grape that's a little bit like rotten, then they go and make that a big deal. It's like someone giving a bunch of food to the homeless, and you see like the rotten grape, and like, oh, this guy's trying to go and poison homeless people. That's what the news media is in America today. They go and see one thing, and it's like this tiny. It's like with the Trump inauguration. There's so many people there, but then they have these pictures, and they go like a billion stories back, or when they go into a Trump rally and they try to go make it look like 5 people there, or when they're in a Hillary Clinton rally and they make it look like there's 50,000 people there, and there's only like a handful.
Yeah,
this is the way that the left twists the narrative.
Yeah, and the thing with the rallies, like I remember that was a big fake news story from, I believe, the Washington Post, where they took a picture before everybody was in it and said, oh, there's nobody here at the Trump rally, but you know, later it filled up and everybody was there. But yeah, Elon Musk made an interesting observation that it's like, it seems obvious, but I didn't quite notice it, because you've seen a lot of futuristic movies like flying cars and whatnot, and he said, you know, your limits, you can only build so high up. For going down, you can go down forever. Obviously, not literally forever, but basically you can go down further in terms of travel than up, because once you get high enough, you're in the you're in space. But if you keep going down, you're still within our gravity, within our atmosphere. You just gotta keep going, and you can build a lot of underground tunnels, which is probably gonna happen. Like that, I envision as our future. In our lifetime, we're gonna have where we drive our car, or there's like SEPTA-like things, trains where we go underground and go to major places. So that's what was interesting about, but they didn't talk about that.
Well, yeah, like he had some really good ideas, and yeah, like you could. Well, my problem with flying cars specifically, like I know he has his issues, but I mean there is a decent bit of air you could go and cover if you had flying cars. But the problem is, you have a drunk driver now, and they'll probably hit the curb and maybe hit a tree. You get a drunk driver in like the Jetsons, and they're gonna hit your they'll break into your house like from above or behind. That'd be a lot more dangerous. Maybe once we have like self-piloting cars, or cars that can flying cars that can avoid things, like see what Tesla's doing with their ground cars.
Yeah.
Like maybe I could see that happening then, but right now it's just too dangerous for the average Joe, and especially I know some guys people out there who will go and hold they'll hold an engine in place with zip ties. Like you could probably get away with that for a little while on a car, but you try that with like a helicopter-y device, I've seen these sort of drone, human carrying drone sort of things. You try that with a flying device, and you're not going to have a good day. I tell you what.
Yeah. Nike ad. This is something people have been memeing and talking about like crazy over the past week. If you've been living under a rock, Colin Kaepernick, the failed quarterback in the NFL for the San Francisco 49ers, was featured in the 30th anniversary Just Do It ad campaign, and it was his picture in black and white with just simple text over it saying, "Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything." And of course, you can imagine the memes that popped up of all kinds of interesting things that use that phrase. A funny one, if any Avengers Marvel fans out there, there's a Thanos one that says, "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing half of everything," and had a picture of Thanos. But Nike did get hit by this quickly. Their stock dropped 3%, $4 billion loss, but sales also jumped 31%. But satisfaction with the company and approval of the company dropped significantly. So what's the take of this? I don't know, but I am with the stance that this is the biggest marketing mistake in Nike history. They've politicized their business. They've cut their audience in half. People that any conservative that used to buy Nike is not going to buy it anymore. They're going to buy Adidas or something else. So
Balance.
Or New Balance, yep, or Under Armour, or many other alternatives. There's not just Nike. They don't really have a monopoly. They're just the big name, and they're really good at marketing until now. So I really don't know what else to think of it, except that it's just I'm glad they did this only because of the memes. The memes have been great.
Well, honestly, the rationale for this was that it was their audience, the people buy it was predominantly urban, and that's what they use, the word urban. And I think they're referring to primarily, black people. It's basically what they wanted to go and say in political talk. In PC talk, that's what urban means. But they thought it was going to be a good idea, and I'm not sure if it is or it isn't yet. I mean, only time will tell. Because I saw that they did sell a lot more. I don't think it was. I don't know why everyone needs to go have a political stance on everything.
That's
exactly. It's like you go over to the store and it's like, oh, I want to buy these. Oh no, it's run by George Soros funded shoes, and then it's like this, and it's like, oh, it's funded by, I don't know, Donald Trump. I mean, that's fine if it is, but why does everything need to be political?
Exactly.
Can we just have it where the shoes are shoes and the shirts are shirts, and they don't give a crap who wears them? I'd pay money for that. I'd pay money for right-wing stuff too, don't get me wrong, but I think that, a lot of people just don't care, and they're tired of seeing this politicization of everything. But I know that, if you aren't a fan of Nike, New Balance, I think they actually helped the Trump campaign back in 2016, so you can always look at them. I personally like New Balance shoes, not for any political reasons, but because they actually make shoes that fit me. So I got weird, duck feet.
Yeah, wide
so
feet.
It's hard shopping for shoes. Nike doesn't make shoes for me.
Same.
So I haven't bought them since they had Nike Shocks.
Literally the only Nike thing I have is flip-flops, and because I need them for the showers here at State College.
Oh god.
But I'm
running shoes for that.
Well, there, Jerry. I am very sick and tired, too, of the politicalization of businesses. Everything's political. I get really annoyed when it's Hollywood, too, because Hollywood's 99% liberal, and they always do moral grandstanding at, Academy Awards. They get some buzz, or they put some stupid, anti-Trump messages in a movie. I'm going to see it in a few days, but, I want movies just like Mission Impossible Fallout, which are just, it's not some deep philosophical thing. It's just awesome action with Tom Cruise doing all the crazy stunts, going balls out at age 53, and he's still doing crazy stuff. That's what you should be doing instead of making political messages. Push the limits of the medium, push the limits of the genre, do greater things. I know a movie's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see it in a few days, but you can do something deeper, because I haven't been to many movies. That's why I'm mentioning these. Blade Runner 2049 was a great example of a very thought-provoking, interesting movie. One of my favorites. I love that film. And no politicalization, no nothing. Kingsman 2, I remember, got a little news because they took out some Trump stuff that was going to be in it, and it was a successful film. I haven't been to movies much recently because a lot of movies haven't been that good, not interesting, or they're stupid political. So The Post, which was about the Pentagon Papers. It had some anti-Trump messages at the end, how for the freedom of the press is under attack today. It isn't. And this was an obvious one, but Spike Lee, who's a big liberal, made a film called Black Klansman. And that was the one where it's this black guy goes undercover in the Klan, which sounds like it can be a funny, interesting movie. But my one friend told me I'd hate it because there's this anti-Trump message at the end. And I'm like, why do you guys have to keep doing this? Why? I mean, say what you will about Tom Cruise and his crazy Scientology, but he doesn't talk about politics. That's the one thing I'll give the guy. Is he's just in it for the art and having fun, and he's pushing himself. Can we all just do that? Why do we have to care so much about politics all the time?
Yeah, I agree with that. Hollywood's definitely becoming. It's not even you're watching a movie anymore. It's more of a propaganda station. You're paying good money for it too. I know I went to Operation Finale and The Nun recently, and surprisingly, Operation Finale wasn't particularly super political. They could have done something at the end calling Trump Hitler,
yeah,
but they didn't. So
That's
I was
good.
pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But
I
in the
find
nun too, they didn't really go into politics, which is pretty good. Because I mean, the only thing they could really talk the whole like priest sex abuse
oh
scandal,
god.
and that probably wouldn't look too good with that whole thing. It was a horror movie, so they had no place in there, and they didn't do it. So I was happy with that. I mean, the movie itself wasn't all that great, but but at least there wasn't any politics, so I can say that was a win.
You
You
notice
know,
how we have
like
to actually
they
say
just
that now?
seriously, huh?
You notice how we have to say that as like a positive of a movie now? Oh, they didn't mention politics.
Yeah, like that's pretty sad. It's like everything too. Like I know people were flipping out if you went to Chick-fil-A during the month of June, you were like
Yeah.
anti-gay or something. I was
Yeah,
like, dude,
HuffPo
I
was
like
doing that.
Chick-fil-A. I don't care. They make good chicken. Have like a gay store open up, like like Gay's Chicken, and have it donate to I don't know, like the Rainbow Foundation. That they don't like the reason people like Chick-fil-A is because they're good chicken. No one really makes chicken like that. Like I had some like today actually, and it was really good. Just because the owner of the company donated to some like organizations that are anti-gay doesn't mean that you have to go and like boycott it just because one person
Yeah.
does it. And it wasn't on behalf of the company so much as just because the person has like religious and personal views.
Yeah.
Let like CEOs do that. Like people flipped out before the whole like Papa John's like getting like that whole thing recently. They had another thing, Papa John's, who donated to Trump.
Yeah.
And like, really, so what? You let people donate to whoever they want to. I mean, if it's not like the company was handing out like Trump stuff. You didn't get like a Trump hat with every like extra large pizza. Although if they did that,
That'd be
I
funny.
would buy some more Papa John's, like hint Papa John's. But no, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I
Now
know.
they're probably like going to donate to the Soros Foundation or the Clinton Foundation to go and like appease the millennials, because that's why they do it. I keep seeing these articles on like Facebook. It's like, oh, millennials like this and they like that, and they like companies that are politically aware, and they like to know where their chicken came from and their beef, and they like that vegan stuff. It's just like really upsetting me how much they like try to stereotype millennials like they do. It's like, no, not every millennial is like a hipster. Like they don't understand that. Just because like maybe 10% of millennials are hipsters doesn't mean that you have to go and do all this hipster crap everywhere.
Yeah, because a lot of brands, like, they'll do it, like, out of political, like, their opinions, but it's mostly because they're worried about their image. So, like, like, a more non-political example is, like, the soap. Some of them will say on the container, we donate money to saving birds that have been affected by the oil spills, or we use our soap to clean birds that were affected by the oil spill. They don't give a crap about the environment or birds or anything. They just do that to make their image look good, to sucker you in and manipulate your emotions and make it look like this soap company gives a crap when they really don't. And so they get you to buy their product. It's what they all do. They don't care. And I love how it's the left who says corporations aren't people, they're evil, they're awful. But when a corporation does something quote unquote good or looks like it's socially responsible, they turn off all of those preconceived notions, and they're like, "Oh my God, this soap company's so great. They help birds," when they may or may not, but their motivation is really just to get more money out of you. And that's because it's emotional manipulation. That's why they fall for it. But not to go too deep into other tangents, but we had to go into Hollywood because there's a lot to mention there. But in terms of politicization and stuff and all kinds of that crap, Serena Williams, if you haven't heard yet, she was playing a tennis match. It was her first round, I believe, and she was fined $17,000, which is nothing for her, for 3 violations. One, it was a warning for an illegal coaching, which technically, like, most refs or umpires let him off. They just give him a warning, but she was actually fined for this, so she got a bit triggered over it. And then outrage that if she did it or not, I don't know. I think she did. She may not have intended to do it or realize she did it, but she got really angry at the umpire, started yelling at him like aggressively, smashed her racket, which is her second violation, and totally bent the crap out of the thing. And the third violation, of course, was the verbal abuse of the umpire, whose name was Carlos Ramos. I mention his name because she's accusing him of sexism. And I'm waiting for racism, but he's Hispanic, so I guess not. He can't be racist then. But she's blaming sexism on this, even though this umpire is notoriously strict and was just doing what the rules said. Like, she's being a crybaby.
Well, you would be surprised, actually, like the tensions between, like, the black people and Hispanic people. Like, did we talk about that, like, whole school, like, a while ago where there was, like, the MS-13, there's, like, a race war about to go down there? Like, there's a lot of tension between those two, like, in general. But I think that one of the things with that, though, she's just being a sore loser, and she wants to go and blame it on something. And I understand too. Like, when you're at that level of, like, playing, that's your whole life. Like, hitting that racket, like hitting that birdie or whatever it was it tennis, the tennis ball? It took me a while. I thought it was golf at first, but I just saw the sports ball loop.
Same.
But yeah, she's just upset that she lost, and I can understand it. But she needs to get over herself. She shouldn't go and, like, act like this. It's bad when a guy does it, and it's bad when, like, a girl does it. No matter what race or sex or whatever you are, it looks bad on you. Like, poor sportsmanship. No matter what culture you're from, that's generally, like, frowned upon.
You wanna know what's
just lose with dignity. Like, she was right to be fined for acting up, and she's making a big deal, and now it's like, oh, this is sexism. No, it's not sexism. It's you didn't perform. It would be sexism to say that you won if you didn't win. That's what sexism would be.
There's a double whammy
you don't get you don't get a handicap because you're a woman. You have to go and play with the men. And if you don't like that, you can go petition to have a women's league.
No. You got back. There's an important double whammy there. She was playing against a woman.
Oh.
And she's crying sexism.
Well, how is that even sex? That doesn't even make any sense.
I know.
How?
I genuinely don't know. Like, that's why her claim is so silly. I think she is. I don't know if she's crying racism, but, like, all the headlines, all the articles, I watched some of the video, she's calling him sexist. She called the guy a thief and said it's because she's a woman. Her opponent is a woman. How is it sexism?
Yeah, I think that she just want to go and cry about something, and her go-to is sexism, so I guess that didn't work in that situation.
Yeah, I just had to mention briefly because it was, like, silly. But 2 more topics we got to talk about. They're very important. Number 1 is Mr. Alex Jones. He's had an interesting week. It all started when the Senate held a hearing with Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, and Sarah Sandberg, number 2 at Facebook. And they were basically having a hearing on big tech censorship and the influence of big tech, the shadow banning, all that stuff, which is happening. This isn't a fact, fake news, alternative fact, whatever, no conspiracy. It is fact. They are shadow banning people. They are banning people based on bias. You just look. We've talked about on this show before. I can talk about it again if we have time. But Jack doubled down and said, quote, "We don't consider political viewpoints, perspectives, or party affiliation in any of our policies or enforcement decisions. Period. Impartiality is our guiding principle." Are you kidding me?
No, that's false.
All the big names.
That's demonstratively false.
I know. All the big names that have been banned have been conservatives. All of them.
Well, it's not even just that. Like, look at that New York Times lady. What was it? The new
Sarah
one who's
Jeong.
like saying just completely racist stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, Sarah
and she didn't
Jeong.
get in trouble for that. But then Candace Owens said the exact same thing, but she replaced instead of white people, I think she replaced with other with minorities, and then she got like a Twitter ban.
Yep, that's a perfect example.
This is complete false.
Yep, perfect example. And Alex Jones had to be at the hearing. I don't know if he was invited, but he showed up anyway, and he sat in there. But that's not where the drama was. The drama was in the hallway when he was confronting people, which he does, and it's hilarious. He confronted Marco Rubio and Oliver Darcy, who works for CNN, and of course Rubio's senator of Florida. And Rubio looked like a total idiot because he didn't know who Alex Jones was. He didn't know anything about big tech censorship. He didn't know anything about shadow banning, even though he was in a hearing about those very subjects. And he then said, after Alex kept confronting him and getting in his face, he said, quote, "I'll take care of you myself," unquote. And so Alex Jones, goes into Rubio, rips them apart, figuratively and verbally, of course. And then when Rubio starts going away, Alex Jones says, "quote Look at this little frat boy. He's so cool. Go back to your bathhouse. There goes Rubio, little punk." Unquote. And after that, the day after, Alex Jones was permanently banned for Twitter after a video where he was confronting Oliver Darcy, where he was trashing him. Because this is a guy who's literally lobbied for InfoWars to be banned. Literally lobbied that in CNN articles. That's CNN's competition. And so Alex Jones was banned from Twitter. @InfoWars was banned from Twitter. The day after, I think Jack got a bit triggered. There's a really good picture with Alex yelling at Jack, which is like, it looks like something out of a textbook. And of course, after that, Apple removed the InfoWars app from the App Store. I have it still. Haha. Can't get me. Even though I love Apple, I'm very disappointed in this decision. And Paul Joseph Watson got a 12-hour suspension on Twitter for tweeting out this video that Alex Jones tweeted out of him confronting Oliver Darcy, calling him all these names, which he's done before, but now it suddenly became an issue. It just happened to happen after this hearing.
Well, I guess you can't go and like talk any smack about like political figures. You can't have political discourse anymore.
No.
That's the world that Apple and Jack Dorsey wants. Twitter wants. That's what Facebook wants. They want you to be good. Like, unless it's a Republican, you can go and talk everything. You could go and threaten Trump with violence on Twitter, and you probably won't even get a ban for it. You'll probably get like a little check mark by your name if you go and threaten violence on Trump. But if you go and say anything, disagreement with a leftist on Twitter, or like confront somebody, heaven forbid, someone at a hearing where they're trying to go and censor your company to go and unperson you, then that's what happens. And they're proving Alex right, because they said, like, he talks about this. Like, every time they like ban him from things, he's being proven right. Yeah. They're like completely just attacking InfoWars. I think it's disgusting. That's why I don't support Apple. I don't support Twitter. I have an Android phone. Even if they took it off the App Store, I can still get it. I have Gab. They took that off the App Store. I can get any app I want. And some of them I get for free, but I don't because I'm a good person.
Aw. Literally, Alex Jones has been removed from every major social media, every major platform, except his website, except the radio, and except the Android App Store. Those are the only things I can think of. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, MailChimp, LinkedIn have all gotten rid of him off their platforms. Like, this is the biggest story that nobody's talking enough about. And many reasons is because he's a lot of these news agencies' competition. And they're using Alex Jones as a precedent. Get rid of the crazy one first, the one that we can get away with getting rid of, and then we're going to go after the real, influence. Because Alex has influence, but there are other people with bigger influence too. Like Paul Joseph Watson, his days are numbered on Twitter. I'm genuinely shocked he's still on Twitter right now. Like, and he doesn't tweet really anything that's controversial or edgy or super provocative. Like, he's not like Milo, who will like really go after people in like a hilarious, trollish, provocative way. Like, Paul is pretty dead on standard right-wing populist conservatism. Yeah, he's going to be gone like within a month or two. I'm surprised it hasn't happened in the past few days, but we'll see.
Well, that's Twitter for you. They're the worst offenders of all of this. I mean, Facebook and the other ones are no better. Usually LinkedIn's not bad, but this is the only time I've really seen them actually go after someone. But it's owned by Facebook, I believe.
Oh, there you go.
So that doesn't really surprise me. It just gets really on my nerves when they do this to people. They just want to deplatform people, and I think that's going to solve everything. What we really need, though, in this world, Elon Musk, now that you're probably not going to be working for Tesla too much longer,
he will be.
Current situation. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but what he should do is make a social media company that doesn't give a crap. Let Alex Jones on there. Let everybody on the social media app, unless they're like a spam bot or they're threatening people, or they're like legally taken off. Like, people would love that. Do something like Gab, but better. Better. He has the money to do it. He could afford that. He could afford to make on par with Facebook, probably even better. And it would be a lot better for society, I think. And we need to have these people on the right who can go and compete with people like Zuckerberg. Or what we need to go and do is take down these big media corporations, because what they're doing is there's like a business term for this. It's not necessarily collusion, but there's something else.
Conspiracy.
Like where you go and like deny someone a service, or all of them combine to deny you a service. And I think that some of the stuff with like off-platform behavior, that's part of it. And the things with Alex Jones, I definitely think he has a strong case for that. And I hope he can get a good lawyer to go and fight this in courts. Like if he wins against that, that would be a pretty big precedent.
As a term you're thinking of conspiracy or to conspire?
Yeah, there's like a term for that. I looked it up before. It was something of it was like either collusion or conspiracy, but something more than that. Maybe next time I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll figure something out with that, 'cause it's really frustrating, and it's definitely like if it is as bad as I think it is, I think it's a strong case for this particular type of lawsuit.
Yeah, I think because when you get the Sherman Antitrust Act, like I don't know the details of that, but when you get into that, like I think there's some leeway. No competitions is gonna beat Facebook or Twitter, because the problem is everybody that's important is on those platforms and their audiences are on those platforms, and you're not moving it. That's the big problem with any competition, which is why it's going to have to be regulated. It's going to have to be considered a public forum or a public space, whatever you're going to call it, and they're going to have to treat it as such. So it's going to happen like with the phone companies, where they regulate it so they can't deny people service. I mean, that's the only feasible option.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense how they're doing it today. Like what they're doing with Facebook is like if you like that'd be like Verizon refusing to give like like Alex Jones a phone. And with some of the things with Google, like you have to have your phone like linked with Google, like a Gmail account to have an Android phone. So theoretically, that might actually be illegal on that effort if they refuse to let them have a Gmail account, because you need one to have an Android phone. I suppose you could get a Apple phone, but even then, that's that stuff's a lot more regulated than what's going on over here, like with social media. But it definitely needs some sort of regulation. Or, I'm not really one for regulation, but I think at the moment it's either tyranny by the government or tyranny by these big corporations. Yep. What we really need to go and do is break up the Silicon Valley monopoly. Like everyone over there lives within like a couple miles of each other. And that's, I think, what causes a lot of these issues. Because when they live so close to each other, they all talk to each other and they're all like, oh, can we ban Alex today? Oh, yeah, I think it's okay. So we're all going to ban him within 12 hours, except for like Twitter, and then we'll wait a couple days on that. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't see anything getting better until I know. Look, I'm not a no government guy. I'm a limited government guy, and if government doesn't, this is a case where government has to take control and step in a little bit. But we'll see how things go. What do you have to say?
My major issue with this, though, is the payment processors get involved with it, and then that's why you can't have competitors, because I think they someone refused, I think it was Gab or something. It was they want to get some payment processor on their app, on their website. It was either Gab or some other alt media thing. It wasn't even really terrible, but then they were refused by the credit card company, which I don't know how they're allowed to do that. And it was MasterCard.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to deny Alex his domain, the domain holder, to just pull him, or for his store, he can't have credit card companies, because that's what he gets a lot of his revenues to his store. What if credit card companies just deny him?
Yeah, that's the thing, and then I guess he can still do cryptocurrency, but they're trying to regulate that right now. Which, good luck with that. That's a whole nother discussion with cryptocurrency. I don't know what's happening with that, and I don't think a lot of people do, even though they say they do.
Last topic is a local story. A Penn State professor by the name of Mark Fabry, it's hard to pronounce this guy's name, who teaches a class called Finite Mathematics. He taught this class last spring. He's teaching 3 courses this semester, where this class, Finite Math, was designed for non-science majors to fulfill a gen ed requirement. I took one of these style classes back in the day, to fulfill that gen ed requirement. So I know what kind of course we're going for here. And it's described basically as just this introductory course of logic, sets, and probability. Sounds like some standard math. But students that were in the class had take-home tests that contained the professor's personal opinions in it. I'm quoting Campus Reform here because they did a great article on it. And few math problems. Quote, Fabrini detailed several seemingly random environmental issues in the Great Lakes, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And there were 3 course documents titled, quote, Would the real Trump University please stand up, unquote. Quote, Fabry asked students to negate the statement, quote, all those who enjoy religious freedom promote cultural tolerance, unquote, after detailing for nearly 3 pages several academics' condemnations of imperialism in a section entitled Imperialism, Hubris, and Cultural Intolerance, Threats to Democracy, unquote. And quote, the victor was, this is one of the things he said in one of his tests, he said, quote, the victor was Barack Obama, who, like Bill Clinton, served as U.S. president for 8 years. The 2 men, guided always by the strength of character and force of intellect of First Lady Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton. Penn State spokesman L. Ryder Jensen told Campus Reform that the school is, quote, aware, unquote, of the exam materials and is, quote, in the process of looking into this situation further, unquote. While Jensen, again, this is a quote from Campus Reform, last one, referenced the professor's right to academic freedom, he noted that the university seeks to, quote, encourage any student to believe that an instructor has acted beyond the limits of academic freedom to consult the policies and procedures in place for seeking a faculty conference and mediation, unquote. So basically it sounds like we got a math teacher that's not teaching math and is just preaching his opinion. So tiresome when this keeps happening. But this student just talked about it recently, you know, because he's probably afraid of getting bad grades in his class. He told Campus Reform anonymously, and he told him this semester. So he does have academic freedom, yes, but if you're not doing your job of teaching and you're preaching instead, then something does need to be done about that.
I agree. Like, I can understand from one end trying to go and make math more interesting, but like, there's so many different topics you could talk about. Like, why bring it into politics?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a political, like, science teacher, do that. Don't become a math teacher. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's a distraction. It creates a hostile learning environment for students who don't agree with that. And especially when, like, from my understanding, like, the syllabus didn't even really talk about this. It was just kind of sprung upon the students. And, like, Penn State, I think the teachers or, like, professors, they're supposed to, like, deal with stuff. It's, like, 85% based on what the syllabus is. Then they have like a 15% leeway, but this seems like it's a little bit of a stretch. Like, and I've had professors too who've done stuff like this, and it's just really unprofessional.
Yeah.
Like, when you see the syllabus, that's basically like, okay, this is like when you go, it's like an advertisement almost. Okay, this is what you can expect when you take this class. But when you have teachers who go and like do other stuff, like completely off the syllabus, it's just like, why are you doing that? It's like, you know, you try to go and buy, like, oh, cool, I'm going to go and buy this, this like Ford Focus, and then you end up getting like a Geo Metro. That's kind of like what this professor's doing. Like, you expect one thing, and then you get something completely different. It's just really frustrating and just terrible teaching practices, and it needs to stop at Penn State. I'm glad that Campus Reform talked about this, because I'm sure this is far from the only teacher who's done this. Even in political science classes, you should try to be like neutral.
Yeah. I have friends in political science classes that will say that, you know, their professors will be very neutral, which is can be more neutral than some of these other professors that aren't teaching political science. But I have a professor who all he does is show CNN clips and bashes Trump. He does teach what his material of, the class, but all he does, he has a clear bias against Trump and Republicans, and all he does is bash them. Every opportunity for an example on the subject we're talking about in class, and it just gets so tiresome. And he doesn't really open up the class to discussion about, which is more tiresome because it's very narrow-minded. It's very, closed. There's no debate. It's just, this is terrible, and Trump is an idiot, and his communication sucks, which it really doesn't. It's just, if you're watching CNN, it does. I'm tired of it because, look, I love politics. That's why I do this show every week. I love discussion. That's why I do this show every week. But There's a time and place for it. So you don't go to a party unless you're with friends of like-minded views. Maybe you just don't go, "Hey, Trump sucks. Woo, yeah, hey, screw Trump," or something like that. Like it's just such a buzzkill. You know what I mean? Like nobody likes that guy. You can make jokes about politics. That's fine because if it's a somewhat neutral joke, like people are gonna laugh about. Like people like joke about like fake news or you're fired or Russian collusion. Like that's fun. Or they joke about Alex Jones and stuff like that. But it's a constant thing. It's just such a buzzkill when so much of our lives are being pushed into politics when they don't have to. Like we talked about with Nike, with movies, with entertainment and culture and all these things. You need time off from these things. Like, can we just be, humans for a bit? Can we just have some time to, enjoy other things and not constantly be thinking about that? There's healthy escapism that, I wonder if it needs to be brought back better.
Well, I think Penn State being like a semi-public university, like if they receive even like a penny a public dollar, I think they should have to go and deal with certain regulations to go and make sure that taxpayers aren't like paying for political propaganda. What I'd like to go and see is have like auditors come into classes, and if it's like completely politically biased, then the school either has to go and change the class or they get fined or something. Like I think that would be a solution because as a taxpayer, I really don't want to be funding like teaching young kids to vote Democrat. Like there's a lot better uses of my taxpayer money, like maybe fix the roads over here instead of like teaching kids to go and vote for whoever's next, Cory Booker, Hillary Clinton. I don't know.
Oh, God.
He's going to try to run.
Yeah.
But like, there's a time and a place, like you mentioned. And it's not the classroom, like, especially where there's no discussion allowed. Like, it's one thing if you allow discussion, you should go and have multiple viewpoints. Yeah. Whenever you discuss something that's politically contentious or, political in general, you should be open for discussion and, not hold the students who have disagreements with the professor negatively. Like, I know someone else who had a professor, a philosophy professor who at Penn State, who said some very mean things to him after he had a political disagreement with them.
Yep.
And stuff like that.
I've gotten some grades. I've gotten my grades deducted and lowered. I've gotten harsher treatments on homeworks because of not even really political opinions, but I attacked something that had political stigma. Like the example I'm mentioning or thinking of is the Women's March. I criticized them. I didn't criticize necessarily their message. I didn't criticize, the political intent. I just criticized the optics and the marketing, the branding, the presentation of their protests. I thought it was disgusting the way they were dressing up as women's meow meows, and they were saying all kinds of stupid things like when Madonna said about blowing up the White House, and just their whole general optics was bad. And I was contrasting it to, because this was kind of the assignment, to the suffrage movement when women were on these beautiful parade floats and they were showing their beauty and their looks and their talents and their strength and their muscle and their beauty. Like they were showing these positive traits. They weren't being, disgusting. They were being beautiful and pretty. And my point is that that's why that was a successful movement, was because it was good optics, it was good branding, it was good image, whereas the current Women's March was just turning people off. That's all I said. Nothing controversial. And she called me stuff like, "Oh, you sound like you hate women." I'm like, I sound like? I don't. Okay, I don't hate women. I never said that. Just because I criticize something doesn't mean I hate it. Jesus.
See, I think you need to show that to campus reform because that's pretty bad. And I think that teachers and professors who got these assignments, I know in PA they have some really weird laws about what was it, you have to have both party consent to be recorded and stuff. I think if you're in a public university as a professor, or you're in a private one, if they get any public money, you shouldn't have any sort of excuse to say that you're not able to be recorded. I think they deserve to be recorded because it's obviously a problem at this university. I've seen it myself. I've had professors who came up with stuff that make Alex Jones blush, but it was left-wing conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
it's just and they just said some bizarre, wacky things. And I think people a lot of people don't know about this. When I talked to my grandparents, they had no clue. They had no clue college was this sort of liberal cesspool that it really is. I mean, Penn State's not even that bad, too, compared
No.
to some of the ones I've heard about.
Berkeley.
Like Evergreen State University in Washington. That one's really bad.
Or Berkeley.
But,
Or Berkeley. UC Berkeley, where Milo went, they burned the campus to the ground, you know?
Yeah, like Evergreen was the one where they had the professor who went to school on the day that no whites were supposed to go to school.
Yeah. That one was pretty bad. It's just gotten so out of hand, but that's where we're gonna end on. Is it's a dismal note, but I will add a little bit of hope, which is I think things are starting to turn around. I think people are becoming a little bit more open, maybe. You know, you look at Cries Change My Mind segments, that's a good example of some people are open-minded, but it's not many, unfortunately. So hopefully campus culture will change. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more real news.